Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Friday, June 12th, 2015, and out walking the big guy as usual. Just because the videos aren't flowing doesn't mean the routine isn't. I am doing this every day, and I'm just not necessarily in a thoughtful enough mood to try and capture it. Well, first of all, let me capture this boysenberry. It's boysenberry season, and the sidewalk here is just full of them at Seaman and 214. That's where we are now. That's the corner. And what about today? It's I don't know, like the third or fourth or something like that in the series of my Fridays coding at home since I left the 5030 building, Broadway, Manhattan Storage, that also has Edison Property offices in there that I rented for a few months so that I could have a place to work and focus in between 360i and Flying Point Digital, at which time I started a coding project because I felt an itch that I needed to scratch called free and open source SEO software. I've been developing software for the SEO industry for quite some time now. Most of it was proprietary in-house tools that never saw the light of day, but on occasion one popped its head up and became part of the Web 2.0 scene. Hittail was one of them, still going strong today, run by Rob Walling, a micropreneur, and he does speeches and runs a few businesses and has a nice little thing going without having to build an empire. You still build something that's nice, it's your own, and you're self-employed. And it's an interesting way to go. However, I like drawing a paycheck, and I like having the structure of an organization around me to deal with, you know, accounts payable, accounts receivable, paperwork, invoicing, contracts, all that mess that no one themselves really likes to do all that much by themselves, unless they perhaps don't already love the subject of their career, which I do. I love SEO, and I love all the things that you need to do to keep pace in the industry. I love it so much that looking at all the tools, surveying the landscape of available tools, I found Python to be probably the strongest SEO tool out there, being a competent, abstracted manipulator of lists such as it is. Now, I know everyone will jump forth and say, oh, this language and that language is also great at lists. And yeah, Perl, the pathologically eclectic something, you know, lister. Perl is great at lists, and at a much deeper low-level machine layer, Lisp is good at lists too. So there's a lot of competent list handlers out there, but Python's is abstracted in just such a way that you have ad hoc, on the fly, loosely structured objects that you can just arbitrarily create and play with, exactly like JSON in JavaScript. In fact, Python's handling of lists, both in a square bracket for a indexed sequential list, or in curly brackets for non-sequential name-value pairs, and a variation of others that are similar, like tuples, which are lists but can't be changed on the fly. So it's kind of like initializing a constant, are available. And that is really 50% of the SEO software, you know, problem. Managing huge lists. And then the other half is, of course, split between being able to store those lists persistently long term, i.e. storage or hard drive space, and the algorithms and the intelligence that you apply to the management of this data. Stop. Sit. You sit. All right. Sometimes you got to mediate dog situations, and so I'm letting this guy walk ahead, which is cool. That's what happens when you're a dog owner in the city. Just got to have nice direct control. So I chose Python, but Python alone wasn't enough because it didn't provide a structure, a rigid Rail-like structure. So naturally my thoughts goes to Rails, but then I see you have all this overhead of maintaining and customizing user interface so that you're not stuck with a Rails scaffolding default templates. And then as soon as you're into customizing and building your own UI, you're in this very, very deep world of long-term maintenance because, you know, browsers are a moving target. HTML5, although well specified, still isn't going to be fully implemented till like, you know, 2025 or something. So there is a lot of capability coded into HTML5 that's going to be gradually falling into place over the coming years. Organizations like Google will help accelerate that effect, but still, deep user interface development has a real time and commitment and maintenance cost to it. And I'm trying to avoid all that. So that whole database layer, I'm just making Google spreadsheets. And I'm dealing with an API that's sometimes there and sometimes not. And I'll just keep the user entertained while they're waiting and well informed of API connectivity problems. And it's only an issue for ad hoc investigations where you're carrying out algorithms in front of you to see how well they get carried out and to get the data back immediately. When this stuff is scheduled, you're isolated from retries. You never see it happen. But believe me, those tools you pay $500 and up a month for social media monitoring are doing retries too against APIs here and there occasionally. Not everything is bulletproof, especially in terms of latency and availability of web services on the internet. So you program robustly around it. And in doing so with Python, I found the yield feature of a generator where you bubble back up bits of information while a generator, not a function anymore once you use yield, executes. And this bubbling up can be sent back to the user real time during execution over streaming. And that is what I built with a Pipulate user interface. The same page build that gives you UI also immediately knows whether the return values from the algorithm intended to populate the grid are working or not, and can twinkle messages at you accordingly. And you get real insight, and you get even more insight because you're looking at the JSON shaped data that's zipping back and forth in a little data box in the same user interface that you're seeing built right there in front of you on the same call that built it. It's like the tail of the first page build turns into the streaming AJAX communication to continue updating that screen until the process is complete. And that's pretty cool. And doing it in this fashion with such small servers and such low dependencies and such broadly applicable problem domain might be the first time you're going to be able to build and maintain your own or use collectively maintained GitHub open source ones, a library of algorithms to produce all the various deliverables of the SEO industry. Free and open source SEO software. Hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe.